as Lacey said, my name is Cindy Smyka. My maiden name is Dean. Some of you may know my parents, Don and Joan. We have been an entrepreneurial family in Ely for the last 30-some years. And I came back to Ely in 2013 after pursuing my bachelor's in hotel, restaurant, and tourism management, and then my master's from Arizona State in sustainable tourism development. So that's just a little bit of my introduction, and I think we have an introduction page here as well. But yeah, I have had an affinity for tourism and a passion for the hospitality aspect of tourism for some time. My dad has been an outdoorsman and a guide in the Ely area my entire life, and so I've learned from a unique perspective of why people came to the Ely area and how impactful it could be for them. So it's something that has been a part of my life since the very beginning, and it's really something that I have leaned into heavily and can't imagine that I'll be ever doing anything else besides working, to the benefit of the tourism industry, specifically here in the Ely area. So I'd like for you guys to meet my team. Mike Fitzgerald is the man responsible for spearheading what is the Ely logo. And Chris Ellebrook does a majority, if not almost all of our initial content collection and curation. And Sarah Vogel, she's newest to our team. She is the marketing coordinator, which is the position I started in 2018 with the Ely Area Tourism Bureau, and we'll be passing around at some point here when everybody's kind of wrapped up eating some infographics and information to help describe what the Tourism Bureau is in relationship to, say, the Chamber of Commerce, and how we're funded through the collection of the Ely Area Lodging Tax. So we'll, at the end, can take questions, and it's very, unfortunately, complicated system, which is why we created infographics. So this is my team. We all work together regularly to create, what you unfortunately probably don't get to see all that often, and is why Lacey invited me here today, is it's not working. Nothing's doing it. Is there anything other than just that button I should press? Okay. But why I think it's so great that I have the opportunity to come and speak to you guys today is that a lot of what the marketing team does, you never have the opportunity to see. I mean, it's a bit of marketing to you would be preaching to the choir. You're already here. You already are, you're in agreement that Ely is an amazing place. So what we do with our goals, all of our mission, every effort we put is towards inspiring and informing people who aren't in the Ely area to consider becoming a part of the Ely area. What does that be for a short duration, potential relocation, and beyond? So we have a lot of different ways of doing this. Our media budget is very diverse. We're on all platforms. We're in TV, we're in radio, we're, collecting earned media, which you'll have an opportunity to hear a little bit more about next week. This is a couple clips here off of our social media account. When we talk about inspiring and informing, there's a very fine line in marketing. Where you're on is at authenticity, and so you have to be really careful that you're not, spreading a message that's not going to be. You have an obligation to manage the expectations of the people that come to spend time in this space. And so, what we were trying to do through our social media is be very genuine. And I think we've captured that, at least in the last couple of years here. Our social media presence has more than tripled. It is a very interactive space now, which it before was maybe a bit canned, a lot more, quotes and imagery that was perhaps not, ours, stock imagery has no place in our marketing plans. We use all of content that is collected and basically relevant and real, recognizable locations, so that people can become excited by the idea that they know Ely, that they recognize that place. And you'll see kind of these quotes next to it are caption or just quotes from what people have commented on those images. We highlight more events, and I definitely have taken more of an interest in the activities that are already being done in the Ely area. We are very fortunate to live in a place where there is a lot of nonprofits and events that are being hosted by just compassionate people who are very passionate people. I'm sorry, who are very excited about whatever it may be that they do the hard work, and we just want to help showcase and garnish more interest in the events that are already taking place. There's also, a real interest in people that I laughed at the Grand Ely Lodge. Here we are, this two picture, as coming from my food and beverage side, I'm like, oh no, they don't have a clean rim on the picture because this was taken by some visitors. Someone posted this, and we had to share it because, believe it or not, I think it has 600-700 engagements, because everybody considers having soup here at the Grand Ely Lodge to be a huge component of their trip to Ely. There's a lot of people that feel that way. And to us, it may seem like we don't have enough restaurants, but there's so many people out there who can't wait to come back to these few. So it's important that we, applaud that. Of course, imagery could not be more important, and we're going to talk a lot about that here in a minute. But here's just a great picture from Chris Ellebrook. Also through specifically social media, and I promise we'll talk about our other media, but this one is just a big one. We have started what I would imagine could best be described as a social conversation. We really now are encouraging people. This is just a great example. For us, we're actually registering and keeping track of what these people are answering. But the question is, how far does it take you to get to Ely? And we had just hundreds of comments of people describing their favorite routes, where they must stop. Not only are other people taking up recommendations for that, but they're seeing the depths that people will go to visit the Ely area. And my gosh, if they're willing to do that, then I can drive those 4 hours from the Twin Cities when it's been on our bucket list for years and years. So for 2022, we're really looking at connecting with a lot more markets and being just more pinpointed in our efforts. So how did we accomplish our mission? Well, it really started 2 years ago when we realized that there were about 16 versions of the Ely logo, and none of them great. So we decided that it was time to modernize. I feel very strongly that none of the steps we've taken since would have been possible without laying this framework. So what the Ely logo is all about is reimagining itself. I mean, it is very much, it's reminiscent on the past, applicable to modern, needs. We use those terms in our press releases and when we talk about the branding project as a whole. But what it really is, and what it means for probably the people in this room, more than it's, easier for us to market with, is that it is the very first time that the Chamber of Commerce, the City of Ely, and the Tourism Bureau, which are the three leadership entities that really work together to promote Ely in any shape or form. Of course, there are others, but we're, through the governmental eyes, responsible. What this logo is the very first time all three of those entities have united under something. So that's what is impactful about it. And it really does allow us to have an authority on the subject of describing what there is to do in Ely. Ely.org, which is a Chamber and Tourism Bureau managed and co-managed site, launched earlier this year, and it's working. It's a work in progress. Anything should always be, but what I'm really excited about is to finally have a place where we can share all of this gorgeous content, where there's plenty of room on the back side to add content like blogs and video blogs. And then we've got, our podcast episodes. There's so many different pieces of content that require a large website that has usability and opportunity for growth. So that's what this website has. Of course, not to mention extremely mobile friendly, and using this brand guide, we have a couple of different versions. You'll see, and we can talk more about it if interested, but the branding guide is something that goes out to our vendors so that our vendors know how to talk about Ely, how to showcase Ely, And in, what way do we allow our logo to be modified so that you don't come across, multiple versions where one graphic designer, thinks this versus how it was originally intended. But we also have our branding partner guide, which is what the city and the chamber uses. And now any efforts that they put out into the world, say, for example, they're hiring, for a position, and this position becomes available on sites that are being perused by people outside of the Ely area. Well, if there's that logo, you know what, I don't think that actually fits in there. If they see that logo on this job, listing, and then they're sitting later that day on their bus, and they look up and there's on the, travel course, they see another Ely logo talking about, the lifestyle that they could live and enjoy. All of a sudden that job seems just a little bit more enticing, they're seeing, and we're working together as a community should, to attract and to retain and to do all the positive things that a community relies on. So I digress on that, but that is what we have done a ton of over the last 2 years here. So you'll see our logo. But rest assured that the city, the chamber, the tourism bureau, the marketing team, we're all working together to button those things up and go together in a very cohesive fashion. Another gorgeous image. Okay, so one of the things that the Tourism Bureau has tasked me with over the course of probably this next coming year, it started back in 2020 when, of course, COVID, everything changes everything. And we decided that it was really time for the Tourism Bureau to step in to not clear up any misinformation, but to just stand a little bit taller and speak a little bit more positively about the good work that we are doing so that people can understand and appreciate. As I said, if you aren't seeing our marketing, then maybe you don't know how good our marketing is. But one of the things that we have decided to do is take more of a public relations approach to our community and to showcase aspects of how the Tourism Bureau benefits the community, how we operate, and that's what these, maybe the handouts would be a good time for now. What you see in the large, conglomeration of infographics with the water tower there at the very top, that is a full 2-page spread that we took out in the local papers, and that is what showcases aspects of what our Tourism Bureau at the time needed conveyed most to our community. We talked about our branding, we talked about how impactful it was and what it set us up for in the future. We talked about our relationship clarification with the Chamber of Commerce, because at one time, the Tourism Bureau was a subcommittee of the Chamber of Commerce. That is no longer the case. We have been a standalone entity with our own board, our own operating budget for quite some time. We also call for nominations. We seek new board members, as all other nonprofits do. And then we talked a little bit about what we are doing at county levels in regards to lodging tax. Lodging tax has been a very ongoing and complicated conversation, which is something that has still not been completely resolved as we work with Lake County, St. Louis County, and that falls more upon the shoulders of the Joint Powers Lodging Tax Board, which I work with closely, but thankfully the Tourism Bureau is pretty much responsible for the handoff to just execute the marketing plan for the coming fiscal year. Right. And then, of course, working with other local agencies such as the U.S. Forest Service in getting information out. We work with them on a couple of other projects, and one of them I'm really excited should be launching here this coming summer, I would imagine, which will be in efforts to assist in educating people who will be using the boundary waters on appropriate measures, safety standards, fair wear practices, and the like. Okay, another new thing that the Tourism Bureau is doing, and along with copies of these documents in a PDF form, I will share with Lacey, and however that information ends up getting to you in the future, we do have a lot of great videos. And because of the design of today's presentation, I didn't think that that would be best, as they are very, they're meant to be viewed on your mobile device or on your desktop. So I think that, and they have great music. So they're marketing pieces, so you should enjoy them in the comfort of your home. But what they would showcase is a highlight reel that you could envision being something that we will capture. It's the culmination of highlights, a culmination of 2-day photo and video shoots, where we very specifically earmark it for a recreational outlet. Sure, you might get wildlife in there, you might get some great weather shots coming in, but the idea is we are going out to do a 2-day photo shoot regarding ATVing, or a 2-day photo shoot and video shoot for fat bikes, and dog sledding, you name it. The list goes on, and I think we might even have the list on this slideshow. But we will use that content, which is so important in marketing, and work with our state level, Explore Minnesota. They have funding and toolkits available that we can help our community organizations that are doing their own marketing, like, for example, the Prospector Loop. This ad that you see in the center of the screen, that is an ad that we provide the imagery, the Tourism Bureau, and the graphic design to compile the ad. But the True North, Find Your True North, that is actually a campaign designed by Explore Minnesota and given to us as there's 3 levels of destination marketing: state being Explore Minnesota, regional being the Arrowhead Association, and then your local, which is the Ely Area Tourism Bureau. So we compiled this designed ad and gave it to the Prospector Loop. And now they have this gorgeous ad that reflects their location, Ely, which we do copious amounts of advertising as well for, and Explore Minnesota. They stand a little taller than we do in their marketing budget, but all the same, it really elevates the area, the efforts we're individually doing for these different avenues, by giving them really good content to work with. Another gorgeous image. We have a lot. We accomplished our mission by studying our audience. Data is the only way to know that you're marketing successfully. You cannot manage what you can't measure. And so this is a sneak peek, I guess, if you can read it. I might have to for you. It just showcases some of our web traffic. The highlighted yellow items, they're going to say like things to do, the Harvest Moon Festival 2021. These are going to be your top 25 organic searches. Ely, Minnesota hotels, Ely fishing report. Those are the things that show us what people want to know. And then we have a breakdown as well of just the demographics of people that are looking for Ely and how they're coming to our site and what they're looking for once they're there, how long they spend on their site. We even have a system called mouse flow, where we can track where they leave our site, where they hesitate with their mouse because it seems maybe a little unclear where they need to go next. And we help alleviate all of those potential hiccups, pitfalls, where potential visitors aren't getting to the information that they want that will ultimately lead them to book a stay. And I do consider reserving lodging to be the first step, for us. Once they've made the commitment to come here, then we get them set up with a place to stay, and everything else comes after that. They're going to eat, they're going to be entertained, they're going to get outside and recreate. That's just what they're coming here for. So also gender and age ranges, cities within Minnesota being our top lead. And this also just helps us pinpoint with our budget more effectively, our Google AdWords, as well as knowing where we can potentially spend more marketing budget to capture a larger audience. This is the 2022 and beyond shot list. It should actually just say 2022 and 2023. But imagining that people do care that the snowmobile in the pictures, in the video of that they're watching is a new and well-maintained snowmobile is critically important. So I guess it's 2022 and 2023, and then also again in a few years. It's probably the best way to say this. But some of them are timeless, fall colors and things of that nature. But what we can expect at the end of each of these these shoots, I guess, would be probably about 300 high-quality photos worthy of, placed in any publication, and hours of content that we can utilize for any imaginable, purpose. Social media pieces we can provide to news stations when they're looking to cover something on the Ely area. We can create our own advertisements, and we can be placing them on streaming services and YouTube channels and things. So we're going to continue to expand our visual asset library. We do use some software to help us do that, so that we can keep keys and tags and search quickly and efficiently for specific images we're looking for. We have 4 seasons after all, so we need to see what Quishway Falls looks like in spring versus fall. Well, we can now find that. One of the things that I'm the most excited about for the Tourism Bureau and for the marketing team is our new forms of media that we've been exploring. I'm not sure if any of you heard of My Ely Story, the podcast that came out in 2021. We were debating a lot of different ways of reaching people, and with the goal always being to be authentic. We thought there's no better way than to share the story of the people who have made Ely their home and why. And a good portion of them, it's a total mix. Some, have generations of people from Ely. Others just couldn't get here fast enough, or some just wandered by and they were like, wow, this is amazing. And I'm never leaving. So we had Serafine Rolando was our star. I would have liked to say my episode made it as a star, but it was Serafine. So we started very organically, just putting it out there on social media, on What's Up Ely, and a few other places. And then we started paying some for advertising budget on it. And then we hit Serafine, and now we have thousands of downloads. It's one of those things that people can't get enough of Ely. And if they feel as strongly as they do, which I know everyone in this room knows dozens and dozens of people who can't get enough of Ely, they're absolutely listening to this podcast. And it is very genuine, and it is very entertaining, and has absolutely no end in sight, because we could interview everyone, and we only hope that the number of Ely people continues to grow. So I think we'll be out in a while. We are working on our voice and tone, which would be an excellent time to mention a little praise for Lacey, always first to volunteer. We collected with a focus group. They help us through a lot of different questions that the Tourism Bureau comes across, and we don't feel comfortable just sitting in a room with the 4 of us going, no, let's do that. We say, you know what, let's engage with the focus group. And so with the logo process, the new website, and then ultimately what we call our voice and tone, which is how we talk about Ely, how we refer to ourselves, what we are and what we aren't. And when those items are established, that will become also a part of our branding guide. And it solidifies for us all a little bit more of a coherent, a coherent path forward. And so Effect TV is on there to show that we are currently on streaming services and on a traditional TV network.
What's on the TV network?
What's that? No, it's just an advertisement. Yep, sorry. Yep. I would love if Ely had a TV show, but I don't know if that's anytime soon. But just to reiterate, we are a marketing agency more or less, but we do also, operate as a nonprofit, which one of the pieces of your nonprofit obligation is to manage your funding, secure your funding. And we are not blind to the fact that there are a large number of people that have relocated to Ely, and before that, even having purchased vacation rental homes or secondary homes with the anticipation of renting them out short term. And so what we're going to be doing, I mean, the best way to get everybody on board is to offer them something that they want. And so our idea here is really to help these vacation rentals become accredited. And so the vacation rental accreditation program is something that has not yet been introduced, but it is something that we're very excited about, and I do believe it will have a major impact positively on us all. The 2022 effort is supported by the Joint Powers Lodging Tax Board, but it is to ensure that all of these short-term rentals have the appropriate licensures, permits, and insurance, that their sales and lodging tax are current, and that properties will abide by clearly defined community standards, which just outlines parking, expectations for trash removal, and noise restrictions and such, all good neighbor practices. And then once confirmed as an accredited property, they will receive an indicator, a digital badge indicator for their own marketing purposes on their online travel agencies such as Airbnb, VRBO, Bookkey, HomeAway, and then also will be listed as accredited on ely.org under vacation homes. So with that being said, we can help, we can alleviate concern, and we can also ensure that anyone visiting the Ely area is having the experience, a safe and enjoyable experience that we expect, and we all want.
So Cindy, does that mean someone who's a Verbo place and an Airbnb place would both be on the ely.org website as a potential place for lodging?
If they are correct. Yep. It's, while I sometimes wonder if I have all the authority of the Tourism Bureau Board to say things like this, but having gone to school at the very time that the short-term vacation rentals were popping up like wildfire, a lot of the classes that's in this, 2009 through 13, were telling us to prepare because this is the trend in which people will travel. And we've already seen it's not a fad, it's not going away, so it's just time to, anticipate and expect that, we will be at the forefront. That's kind of our goal. And this is a lovely picture actually taken over my parents' resort on Jasper Lake. Not by me, but I just thought it was so beautiful. So, and this winter. So that is my presentation, what I have left for you guys to sort of look at. And I had intended to laminate them for you because my color printer is not all that. But what I have in front of you and will share with Lacey is a breakdown of how the Ely area lodging tax is collected. It is complicated because Ely spans 2 counties, and each county assesses a different percentage. So 3% in St. Louis, 4% in Lake County. 1% of that 4% of the Lake County tax is withheld for events that happen in Lake County, and then all of that funnels back after there's a small administrative fee removed from both of those lodging tax authorities. They are returned to the Joint Powers here in Ely, and the Joint Powers will review our former years of success on the marketing plan and then approve a coming year annual plan. So there's some breakdowns as far as information regarding who those players are, mostly just reps from those 4 districts, well, 3 districts in the city of Ely, and then a few unincorporated areas, which we are working towards. I believe the St. Louis County will be sending Paul McDonald to join our Joint Powers Board, so we'll try to keep that fun. And then the second handout was just a clarification piece for who we are and who the chamber is.
So can you give us a little bit of insight? You said that the logo was kind of historic and that it was the first time that the chamber, the city of Ely, and the Tourism Bureau did something in agreement together. I'm kind of interested to know about that process.
Sure. So, I guess the process started with the acknowledgement that all of our marketing efforts, no matter how wonderful the graphic design was, it was quite difficult to utilize what at the time was a sideways oval logo with a gold Ely that the chamber had sort of coined, and the Tourism Bureau wanting to continue to be as effective as possible. We were utilizing that logo and using it to promote Ely. But it just had a lot of aspects of it. It was quite busy when and undiscernible when too small. There were types of media you couldn't use it on. It could not be embroidered. You know, there were a lot of those small faults with it that lead to wanting to improve. So what happened next was I presented to the Tourism Bureau board a proposal of hiring a graphic designer who ended up being Mike Fitzgerald. So we put out an RFP. He came up with some great ideas, wanted to utilize a focus group. The focus group was created. And then we worked with the chamber, especially at the same time, simultaneously working to design the website with just a few characteristics kind of left missing. We were creating the framework of the website. And then 2 simple meetings with the city, and I guess they like when you just, provide them a finished package. And all the work was already, had been done and done correctly by utilizing that community input, wanting to make sure that it would be relevant, boy, like I used to love bubble letters, but we didn't try to pull that, it was something we really wanted to be proud of, and we put the energy into it on the front end of it and asked if the other entities would adopt it, and they did.
Can I ask about the controversy of the water tower?
Sure. It was like the one time I ever was like, wow, this must be like what famous people feel like when something bad happens and everyone hates you. I was like, okay, well, I think you'll thank me someday, and then somebody else just do something terrible so we can all get past what I did. No, I definitely respect people having very strong opinions. But what ultimately it came down to was the water tower was going to be painted one way or another, had to for maintenance issues. And it would have been really silly for the city to put the logo that they no longer used on it again. So that was the long and the short of it. So I even, the little salt in the wound on this, the funny part of it actually was is that shortly before the water tower got repainted, the Tourism Bureau actually helped facilitate taking over managing What's Up Ely. So I'm actually the administrator on What's Up Ely, and I was like, oh, wow, I could just delete all these terrible things, but I guess that would be wrong. So, no, I think ultimately Ely speaks for itself, and that people will continue to feel the way they feel when they see the water tower. It's done out of pride. So I think ultimately people will come around to it if there's still any out there that are naysayers.
Cindy, I see on this Ely Area lodging tax that there's administrative fee that Cook County takes, right? And Cook County is the financial agent for.
They are. The Cook County auditor has actually been the auditor responsible for St. Louis County, our portion, Ely portion of St. Louis County, which includes Morris and the city of Ely. They have been our lodging tax authority for many, many years. The city of Ely used to be, but I believe that there is just some governmental obligations and some tax, accounting expectations that go with handling tax dollars that the city was no longer interested in doing. This is before my time. But yeah, so Cook County and then the state of Minnesota both hold a small administrative fee.
Cindy, we know what all the great things are about Ely. I'm curious, from your perspective, what obstacles do you encounter affecting business? What are the principal things we need to overcome at visitors?
Well, I think remaining welcoming in nature is always the most critical thing in tourism, and it's very hard. There's always going to be polarization in any topic, in any place, but given this locale and the current climate, and that's been our biggest, struggle. And it is part of the reason why the Tourism Bureau became involved in What's Up Ely, was to help manage the conversation between, local happenings and the huge, at the time that we became involved, I believe there was 10,000 or just shy of participants of that Facebook group, and it was very obvious that all of them weren't residents, because that's just our population. So we I think that that's really part of the important, part of the most important piece, probably the most important piece, is making sure that like the work that you're putting out there is actually relevant to what your community and populace want. You're not out there blindly speaking without any sort of regard for the community that ultimately is going to be the ones receiving these visitors. You know, I would say that it's not a burden, it's just a part of the process.
I was going around town and someone else asked me this, and just asked if there was a lot of visual content out there. I'm thinking specifically of videos. I asked if there was a place where people who make video content can post. That's kind of like, you know how the Ely org, like you're talking about all different lodging channels that have a home on Ely.org if they go through an accreditation process. Do you have any intention or vision of a future in which other people can submit photo or video content in the same manner?
Yeah, I'm not sure it would be as public as Ely.org, but there is certainly an opportunity through, it's called Canto, the software I mentioned earlier that allows us to store large quantities of raw footage and imagery. There is opportunity to utilize that platform in a way that you could say have a photo drive or a, submit of best wildlife photo of Ely 2022, so we could do something like that, but where we probably would, because I think what you're getting at more is so that other people can view it and we can kind of be shared. I mean, I guess I would imagine probably Facebook is going to be the only place that we could really do that.
Yeah.
And I do think What's Up Ely operates in that fashion sometimes as well. It's not the perfect, place for it. It is a good place.
Mm-hmm. I think it was just born out, there are a lot of content creators in the Ely area.
Yeah.
Whether they're like foraging mushrooms or building a cabin or whatever they're doing, there's no one place to go.
Well, one of the things that we've been toying with, and granted we have right now just a handful of blog pieces that have been written, and we're waiting to share. It's called the Adventure Blog, and maybe the name needs some work, but it's one of the things that ultimately we hope is a huge conglomeration of, what the weather was on a day, pictures, just like, drawings of flora, fauna, whatever it might be. It's a kind of this place, a digital journal, more or less, where people can submit to it. And I think that's maybe probably the best way, because we do want written word. We do want, that's just as important as, the image can pull people in, the video can keep them entertained. But if you've gotten that far and then your language and your text body of that site or newsletter or whatever is relevant to the content you just showed them that captivated them, and then there's no final call to action, then what was the point? So I think I'm really interested in doing more of this like holistic media, where it's something that people really, they have to chew on it, it's something they come back to, which is why the podcast, I think, has been so well received.
So Cindy, if there's more current content on the website these days, it's not a static, is there a push notification that we can all subscribe to? We want to get those current developments, keep up with what's important to you guys, and we think you want to share with us?
Sure, yeah. You know what? If you subscribe to the newsletter, there's probably a very easy way for us to do that. Is it something that's automatically set up? I don't believe so. But the chamber facilitates a few different newsletters. They have one that goes to their chamber board, their chamber members, and then to, I believe, the community. But the Tourism Bureau has it's a sales piece, right? It's meant to go to visitors more or less, but what it really does showcase for the, the flyer is that it's something to get excited about, something you can share and be ambassadors of our brand, where you you utilize what we're doing for marketing to send it to your extended family and friends who you've been trying to convince to come to Ely for a few years. I mean, there's no shame in my game, like that would be absolutely the way to go. And I'd be happy to, have that visitor list grow. So I did leave business cards at the door along with some stickers. Sorry, I don't have more swag but they are nice stickers. So they are free up for grabs.
I have one question from the online contingency. So someone asked, what is the best way for Fall Lake Township to get their share of the lodging tax dollars from Two Harbors?
So probably what they're referring to is the 1% event tax, because I can assure you that the Love and Lake County has already provided back to us they started collecting lodging tax in October 1st of 2020, separately from how we've always paid the same via Cook County auditor. So what we're doing now is only been in effect of October 1st of 2020. So starting then, Lake County has been collecting separately. They're utilizing the state of Minnesota as their lodging tax authority, and Love and Lake County, certainly not to pass any blame, took quite some time to organize and how they would facilitate reimbursing and keeping track of. Also, lodging tax is complicated in the fact that lodging properties will pay it at the same time they pay their sales tax, which may be monthly, annually, quarterly. There's a variety of different ways that people pay. And of course, there's people who paid incorrectly after October 1st, not knowing that the change has been made or put into effect. So I understand completely why it took quite some time to get organized. But Love and Lake County has returned to us the lodging tax from 2020. We are still waiting on the lodging tax from 2021, but that's not unusual. So the 1%, which is what I'm going to guess that question is relating to, it is reserved for events, which I've read the language on it. It's very vague. I know a few Ely businesses have already benefited from applying for those funds. They're meant to be small increments between, probably about 500 and less, maybe 1,000 and less, I should say. I think our website says 500, but I think go big. They would apply with the intent of, and it's no secret, I'll use your example in Ely. Silver Rapids applied for the Halloween, hay rides and things that they were doing out there as a community event. And so they applied for those grant dollars and received a small, increment to assist in the execution of that event. What worries most of our people up here, if you live in Lake County, which I grew up in Lake County, almost had to go to the Two Harbors School, definitely heard all the concerns at the time, and those seem to never really go away. There's been concern over the years, and perhaps rightfully so, that money gets a little bit spent more heavily in the Two Harbors area rather than trickling back up to the county or the Fall Lake Township region that accumulated any portion of that revenue. All I can say is that I will continue to stay involved in that conversation. I will continue to assist businesses in applying for those funds should they need or have an idea. In increments that low, I can't imagine that the Tourism Bureau will be making it their priority to come up with events that would utilize that small of a grant opportunity, more or less. But I also believe that there will be just more of a presence on my part in Two Harbors with working with the administrators, the Love and Lake County Board of Directors, and so on. So that is basically the synopsis of what that 1% event is doing. You can go on the Love and Lake County website and read all about it. I encourage you to, actually.
Any other questions? So what is the impact with the boundary water restrictions coming up on available campsites in the future? What is that going to do for tourism
here in Ely. I was part of that, the people who come to just go into the Boundary Waters, that they do like a before lodging here, and then when their trip is ending, that they have another night here in the evening.
Sure. I can, without any, facts in front of me, I would say almost 90% or more would be definitely staying in lodging prior to an excursion out to the Boundary Waters. The way a permit is designed, it really does require people to be out on the lake, in the morning, getting that tow, getting out on, the paddle. Maybe a handful of people will make a trek from Duluth or the Twin Cities to get out on the water in the afternoon. But pretty much every stay, every, Boundary Waters trip requires bookend, amenities from Ely and the surrounding area. As far as the Forest Service goes, we have had some conversations, and I feel very fortunate that Ely has a great local group of people to communicate with. But with that being said, I understand these decisions really are out of their hands at, certain points. We've been involved, the Tourism Bureau Board has been involved in conversations with congressional reps and their aides, for Minnesota. There's a lot of discussion about what this means. Is it a opportunity to just educate and enforce on what the Forest Service is considering degradation to the forest, the Boundary Waters, or is it something that the cooperators, which are the people the businesses and the outfitters, the resorts that sell the permits for the Forest Service up here, I think I could speak with their support that they're highly concerned that this will have a very negative impact on their business, and there will be millions of dollars lost over the course of, if the permit system isn't, if they continue to not take the insight, or the opportunity to gather input from businesses that are actually up here selling permits and who are actually helping people get out onto the water, and to do so safely. I mean, I feel that if you're going to use the term cooperator, there needs to be cooperation, and that's just a critical part of it. With that being said, I think that we have made a good rapport, have created a good rapport with our local Forest Service and the Superior National Forest Public Relations Office to do more of that educational piece. The Tourism Bureau can certainly assist. While we won't be doing any enforcing, we can certainly be out there, sharing information, and then we can remain an active part of the conversation if what I think the writing on the wall is. I mean, very few times have permits ever been increased. Actually, I know that the answer to that is never. But if they continue to decrease, then the Tourism Bureau plans to be front and center in that conversation.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.